Okay. Let's see. I know there's some good matches here to watch. Oh boy, what is this quality? Let's go watch some more semis here. What else do we got? Savages in Toronto. Let's go back, get to the start of this. Alright, this is a good starting point. Alright, so I'm not exactly sure if Savages is actually trying new supports or if they had ringing supports, but they have normal tanks and DPS. And I'm pretty used to them running this lineup, but we played against Toronto and they were actually running this Orisa on almost every single map, because I think that's basically what the pros are actually doing now on a lot of maps, but I can tell they weren't as practiced with it during the series. And then also using Moira, Mercy on these choke point maps, also when you don't expect a D.Va to be on the other team, because you'd basically have to be running triple tank to be running D.Va, because you optimally want to be using Zarya. But I think Zarya Orisa doesn't have the same value that other dual tank supports have, because a lot of time Orisa is playing behind her shield and she doesn't get to use the Zarya shields as efficiently. But you basically have shield advantage with the Orisa if you play it optimally. Moth ends up getting like flanked here, where he probably should have been playing closer to the point rather than as far forward as he was, like on the right side. Because then Hawkmay has to end up using like a lot of his heal, and he isn't getting as much orb pressure here because he just has to pocket all the people. But once you run out of heal, you lose all your pressure on the point, you can get pushed. It ends up being like really close, where like there's a lot of trading of kills, but because the Mercy fell, he ends up coming back in time. But I think they pushed too aggressively. Like they got the damage and the poke, but they had walked too far forward in, where they could have just cleaned the kills up and then just capped the point.
He has played with them before, right? Was he just on trial?
He might have been just on trial or just.
Well, in any case, he's a fantastic main tank, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what he does today. As the Savages are trying to move in from White Room
And
right now.
retaking through White.
Trying to avoid those Junkrat pipes. Everybody knows.
You can see right here though, if your management of the Orisa shield is good, you can end up having more shield than the Rein just because you can keep replacing it. And once Rein's shield gets low, he wants to actually like hold it.
It's harder to aim up.
But you can see where they're standing right here. So we have the tanks. Oh, I should probably full screen this. We have the tanks playing next to each other. Poro's playing right here. We have Dalton probably with a pocket over here. But then we have supports playing behind the point, so you can't even see them right now. Like they're playing so far back and in a safe spot, there's no way to get to them unless you run through the team. You can see here, he tries to force Shatter too aggressively. He only gets one. You can see how they have to walk through the enemy team basically to get to these supports. I think he ends up getting knocked down where he could have probably shifted it, phase walked it, and then been invulnerable and actually survived that shatter, and then probably ulted after to actually stay alive. Yeah, because they end up falling. Like that was a really good retake from Savages, having someone on the high ground to actually put pressure over the Orisa shield. But they also could have avoided it by actually surviving the shatter by phase shifting, because he was the only one who got hit by it. And you want to keep him up because he's super good at sustaining during fights. If he throws a healing orb off one of these walls, you can just keep bouncing around the room. So you can have like a heal orb bouncing off, and then he can be playing safe with his beam. They're playing on the point here. They want to force the Orisa to not be set up. Like the Orisa has to walk forward, and ideally you want to like send the Orisa forward, so like they can test the point, and then you have them get grabbed after that.
Here comes a Deadeye from Dalton, though. Can he find the targets he's looking for? He finds Hui.
This is really
There's the
good though.
grab from Toronto Esports. A Riptide coming in.
Oh,
Oh,
big
Hui!
tire.
Oh, and Becky Lynch with the headshot.
So
Sorry,
their
Torque
retake was
coming
really
in
good.
on
They had their tanks
Maverick.
just walk forward and like eat the grab themselves, so they knew it was coming, I assume. And so they just died, and then they were like, okay, we're gonna Valk after the fact.
Lynch. And
And then
fantastic
Kowloon
play
wasn't
from
able to
Toronto
Valk himself
Esports
and
there.
actually save that.
Full res from Mob. The only
They ended up
problem
using a lot of. I think they actually used all 6 ults, but
is
they
they
retaked.
used
And
all six
because
ults.
the Orisa has such a good advantage of holding people back, like look at this shield, it gets to eat basically the whole doorway. And you can just send right clicks out and like suck people in and actually get your ults back pretty easily. So it's really hard to push into an Orisa unless you get like a pick off or you're able to run through her shield. They're able to walk back here. I think Dalton's probably playing a bit too aggressive. He needs to pull back, but and Panker used his shield. He should have just saved it. He didn't even see where they were. He places it now. Yeah, I think Dalton was in too aggressive of a position before this. So like he was off playing alone basically over here where Moth is having to pocket the Junkrat who was over there, like next to point. So they end up falling. I think they wanted to contest Capo who was on the high ground himself, but they had too many plans where Dalton was trying to flank them in white and then who else was it? Derek was trying to contest the high ground, and then Panker was trying to contest their Ryan. Like, you ended up just splitting up the comp too much, where no one ends up getting the value they want.
Especially Becky Lynch on that Moira. The coach is showing how to frag right now as the Savage is able to retake that point from Toronto Esports. Oh, Capo getting cut out. Dalton with the flashbang
Okay.
onto him.
I don't know why Capo was there. He definitely should be playing with his team. Like, you're going to lose the 1v1 to McCree because you can just get stunned.
Go ahead, Jim.
Toronto gonna be taking this opportunity.
Oh my goodness, Dalton is just walking up and popping heads.
Taking this window of opportunity. Dalton gonna be going down.
Savages, DPS are playing too far forward.
They know they got the picks. They just zone out the other.
They were both standing in front of their teams. They're basically like in a poor position.
Frags and taking names today. Toronto
Tanks reset though, and they don't.
Oh, that's brutal.
He gets hooked.
From this McCree. Here comes a grab from the side of the Savages.
Yeah, they overused there.
Poro with a nice
I mean, they had to contest early, but I mean, they walked up before the team was even reset. Like, they had a little bit of time to actually come back and recontest. They ended up just walking too far forward initially.
Did you see that hook? That was clutch.
Yeah, exactly.
The hook was clutch.
The caster curse coming.
Oh.
And the scary thing.
You go back.
Crack-a-lackin' as the Roadhog, but
Okay.
he said since he turned him and since he...
Yeah. Toronto is using. They're using this Orisa a lot. I don't think you use it on every map. I think you just practice it on like maps that you would use Rhine and then maps that you wouldn't use Pharah, but they end up using it with Pharah. I don't know if I agree with it. I don't like it as much unless you just build around it and do something similar to what Dallas was doing against. Oh, I'm blanking on their name. Maybe it was Gladiators? I can't exactly remember, but they had Seagull playing Junkrat, and they were just like putting shields in corners and then playing against the Pharah where they were basically LOSing her or just playing around the shield. But they didn't run a Pharah themselves.
even had its chance.
There we go. We got Derek back on the pharmacy. Poro as.
But this works where you can play a bit further back from the shield. So they're playing the zone right here. They have the soldier heal down, and you put your protected barrier, and then you play further back from actually where like tanks would normally contest each other, and your shield is, I guess, more effective because it lasts longer. I don't know what Poro's doing right there. Poro was way too far forward on his own. They could have out-sustained it right there because they had the Orisa shield. Poro just goes way too aggressive, just getting greedy.
For the side of Toronto is Moth with a DPS Lucio kill onto that Tracer, and they are so close.
Derek's playing really close to the ground, but I mean, there's nothing I can do. If they try to contest.
Is going to seal the cap for them. Kraken Lakin going to get demegged and taken down. Moth gonna reset him.
You ideally want the soldier to be playing further back and actually like get shots on the tanks because you'll have more sustained damage against the tanks, where the soldier can be playing further back and Farah can be both poking down the shields, and that's going to be more damage than the Tracer. but they went too aggressive,
team fight.
and then
I mean, they
their
almost had
backline ends up
Poro
falling
half
because
maybe a third of the
how people
time.
playing aggressively
It was just too
fell.
much. You had Derek getting kills, weren't really paying attention to him, and now Becky Lynch on top of
So
him.
you can see their retakes here.
Toronto now wrapping around the entire point, coming from the spawn side
I don't even think
of
they've
the
used the shield
Savages.
light. Like they've yet to take any damage, and like they're placing a fresh shield right now when they're actually taking the fight.
Getting
Hui
into
was
this
playing way too
very
far
quick.
forward, ends up like
Don't
losing
see
his
some
suit, and then they
building
beat
up.
late for it.
Savages gonna be popping that sound barrier in one pick in favor of them going down onto Dalton. Akame, however, gonna be mitigating that. And
Toronto pops
Toronto just
Valk.
playing very smart, using that Orisa shield to
You can see
maximum
Poro is
potential.
landing a lot of damage here. They're like able to contest and hold slowly, where if Panker has a shield up and he's getting
That next
pocketed,
comes
he's
up,
going to
and
be able to
Poro
survive
on the
longer than Ace of
point with a
Spades is,
huge barrage. Finds Capo as
because
well.
you have more
Derek
effective
gonna take that,
HP.
and here comes
And the
Cole.
shield actually gets really insane value because these walls are like a bit technically rounded, where it's like an 8-sided thing in the middle, where you end up having this bubble above you as well, where you can stand in like two sections of this middle part, and you have the shield protecting you from above,
Second
protecting
pick
you
by
from
the
the Pharah.
Timberwolves, and all of a sudden it's Mercy Winston on the point. Can they take down this Valkyrie Mercy? It's so hard to hit.
So you
Hui
can
is
see this
backing up
barrier,
and
he's just standing underneath it, so he isn't
trying to
taking
like again
rockets
like
from
take down
above.
this Ace of Spades. Can they clean up these Savages members?
Oh my
The point
god.
is still ticking
So this
up
was a
in their
really good take
favor.
for Toronto.
Finally,
I really
Toronto
like that. It
Esports
took them
gonna
a
take
little bit
that.
longer to retake,
64%.
because you aren't
Poro
as
looking for that
speedy
second
with the
body shot
Winston and you
onto
can't get these
Derek. Not
fast
able to
engages,
find.
but
Oh, but the huge body on the capo. And
these
Toronto
shields do
Esports
get more
gonna
value.
start ticking up here.
Panker
You can
managing
see it
to
right here,
keep
it's
Hui
600,
unkillable, using his
almost
shield,
700.
forcing
The
Dalton,
shield's back,
removing him from
900, and he has it up
immediate
again.
pressure. Tank basics 101. If you need to learn him, watch Panker. He's doing a
So they're getting more
fantastic
value
job
off their shields.
maintaining his position. Now he's leading the charge for his team. Going to be putting
We
down
can
a
see the
huge
shields on the point are getting a lot of value.
that what is that called? A jumbo?
Ideally, you want the team playing a little bit closer to where he is,
The supercharge.
but Panker also likes having the style of him playing far forward and sacrificing himself for his team.
Yes.
Anyway,
Fungo.
tons of ults coming out. Dalton with attack visor. Poro gonna find
Did
two
they
supercharges,
overuse?
charging everybody up.
I think they
Poro
overused. They
with
used
an even
4
stronger
ults where they really didn't need to. It was like a really clean wipe where they could have probably just used the tac visor and supercharger.
a little bit sneaky.
I was gonna say bango. I meant to say bongo. And I was like,
He did.
bango doesn't
Fungo,
sound right.
yeah.
The shield right here ends up being super efficient. You can just block off the whole bridge and the fire won't get any poke on you.
Unfortunate. We almost could have had a widow.
Ooh, almost lost the mercy there.
Almost deal with Poro on that Pharaoh. Poro's gonna be sitting on a barrage as well. They're pushing onto the site, not focusing.
Can see this, having these shields for a little bit longer causes more poke to go in and you end up winning fights off of it. And the Winston isn't getting in and putting in more damage than the Orisa is. The Orisa is actually laying down more long range damage.
Yeah, Poro tried to
I really
fight
like this
Barrage.
Orisa.
He got taken down, but Dalton says
It's hard to
no.
retake though. Once you actually have the spot, then it's good. But if you aren't able to actually hold on to it,
While
then
he's there, finds 4 kills in that fight on the
retaking
second
is a lot
and
more
now
difficult.
Toronto Esports very close.
Ideally, you want to send flanks around. You don't want to keep going head to head against the Orisa with the Winston because you're going to lose the shield battle and get poked down. You want to run through the Orisa,
Capo with
already down.
like what they're doing. Hui's alone though, so
but
they end up
Hakame
just
got
getting picked
rested up,
apart.
and the rest of the kill feed has been all Toronto right now, and Savages struggling to find anything on the point. Derek gonna find Panker, but it's not gonna be enough. Capo, one of the only ones still up, and he's not gonna be able to make it back to the point.
Pretty interesting
Toronto
strategy
Esports
though.
gonna
I really
take
like it.
Eastern Tower 2-0, and we're going to be
I feel like you can control what the other team is wanting to do.
hate Moira, but I